Welcome to the Multi-Hyphenate, your campus for creatives, entrepreneurs, and anyone living outside the box. If you're learning to navigate business, art, and magic, consider this your creativity MBA. I'm Margaret, your favorite housemate, and a multi-hyphenate fairy who built a six-figure career ignoring literally every single rule. As your favorite roommate, expect to hang out for late-night talks about what I'm learning one-on-one, head to workshops with me to learn tools, probably get dragged to some house parties, and meet some of my favorite entrepreneur friends to hear their stories of redefining success. Welcome home. Julia Carlson, welcome to Multi-Hyphenate University.
Woohoo! How fun is that?
So fun. All right, Julia Carlson, you are a best-selling author, an eight-figure entrepreneur, a keynote speaker, founder of Financial Freedom Wealth Management Group, where you are helping entrepreneurs scale with freedom. And I know you're focusing a lot on helping seven-figure businesses scale to eight. You are also in the top 1% of firms in a very male-dominated industry, which is very inspiring to me and amazing. So today we're going to dive into a few different things within the financial world for entrepreneurs. So first off, I want to talk about a framework that you have talking about the 5 money mindsets of the wealthy.
Yes.
And then dive into some basic coaching from the perspective of when I think of financial advisors, I often have a little bit of resistance from an entrepreneurial mindset because I think I'm going to get really like risk averse feedback. And being an entrepreneur inherently involves a lot of frankly risky moves and like moves that other people think insane, especially financially. So I would love to start. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. I will start to say that I'm not the average financial advisor. That is for sure. And I always like to say I'm an entrepreneur first. I have actually a lot of businesses, and so I can very much relate to your show. And so, yes, I started my own business in wealth management when I was 23. I had hit the glass ceiling at a bank I worked for, and I was like, I want to be a financial advisor. I want to go out and help people. And the only option, I live in a very rural, small town on the Oregon coast, was to like do my own thing. And so I launched that. And my passion at that time was helping other people build financial independence and financial freedom. And so I wanted that as much as for myself, because I was at a place in my life where I got married at 19.
Wow.
I was dependent on my husband. He was older. He made the money in the family. And we were honestly experiencing challenges in a young marriage, as one would, getting married as a kid, right? And so I had this like, oh my gosh, I have no choices because I'm not making my own money. And so that passion to build financial independence for me transformed into helping others experience that. And so that's where it began. And then over the years, there's been lots of ups and downs, as I'm sure we'll maybe talk about, as an entrepreneur that was just happened to be in financial advisory business. Since then, though, my husband and I are still married, almost 30 years.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
We made it through. I like to say I've been married to the same person 3 different times.
Yep.
It's evolved. But we have a real estate company. He owns a business. I own a business. We've built wealth together. I like to say what I put out in the world are lessons like from my messes. And then I transform that into how can I help others? So that's why I'm so passionate about helping entrepreneurs, specifically women entrepreneurs, like grow and build their business, because that will be the vehicle to wealth. Mm-hmm. So like you shared in the beginning here, a lot of other financial advisors are going to say, diversify, save your money before you do things. But I actually think it's opposite. Go all in on yourself. And then once you build your business and it's successful and it's consistent income, that's when you then can start putting in other strategies to build wealth outside of your business.
See, this is why I already love you. Because I'm like, that's how my brain works. And I think it is at odds with a lot of other people. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But I want to start with this beautiful framework you've built out. So let's talk a little bit about these 5 mindsets of the wealthy.
Of the wealthy, yes. So number 1 is a communication mindset. For some reason, we are taught to not talk about money.
It's so true.
Not talk about sex or money, right? And so I want to normalize talking about money. Like I like to talk to people about how much they make and what are they doing with their money and what investments are they making and what are the struggles of that. So I think we have to normalize talking to money or talking about money with our people, with people that are trusted allies, that people that have the same vision for you. Because I think as an entrepreneur, we are wired weird. And
Truly, like, it's an abnormal mindset, and I understand that. And I think it's a lot of the struggle and why entrepreneurs need other entrepreneurs to connect with.
yeah, absolutely. So number one is communication mindset. And that's just like, let's just start talking about it. Because when you talk about it, you'll normalize it and things won't get as scary. And I would say the caveat to that is be careful who you listen to, like, or who you talk to about it. So you want to talk to people that are where you're going. And then secondly, the financial truth, knowing where you stand, because oftentimes when we don't face the reality, because it doesn't feel good, because maybe we've made mistakes, and there's a lot of shame around money mistakes. And that just breeds like guilt and avoidance, frankly. And so the financial truth mindset is being courageous enough to look into, I call it the financial mirror. And so what exactly is your situation? Like, pull your credit report, look at your debts, look at your savings, look at your investments, and have it like all on one sheet of paper.
I've heard someone frame it as like a money date before. Like you're having a romantic evening with your money and finding out really what's going on, having the deeper conversations you don't want to have.
For sure. And that's it. It's like you want to know where you stand. And so you have to put that attention and intention with it. And so
what are we?
yeah. And so I love the idea of money dates. So I talk about that in my book because it's so important. Whether you do it with your partner, you do it by yourself, just having the mindset that the truth will set you free. And that's where it's like, if you want to go on a diet, you got to step on the scale. So this is like stepping on the money scale and seeing where you're at. No shame. You can't even regrets. It's like, what did I learn from those past money mistakes? And most likely you weren't taught how to do money.
I'm thinking about this, kind of a funny framing, but we were just talking about how I'm starting running as somebody who's never identified as a runner in my entire life. And just that identity shift of, instead of being like, I'm not a runner, and where I am today is like, a nice 12-minute mile. It's fun.
Totally.
It's just like, okay, that's where I am today. And so the personal trainer I talked to yesterday was just like, great, you started somewhere. Amazing. You're a runner now. Keep going. Okay. So we've got communication. We've got our money dates, like really understanding where we're at.
So once you know where you're at, then it's this empowerment mindset. So I've got everything I need to go make a difference in my financial life. And what I talk about during this mindset is really the difference between financial freedom and financial independence. Financial independence is having enough money, investments, assets, real estate, whatever it is that gives you the income, a passive income, like you don't have to go work for it, to satisfy your lifestyle. So for most of us, it takes a lifetime to build financial independence. And it's not going to happen overnight. There's no get rich quick. I made it. You have to know your number, though. You have to know what you're shooting for. So that's financial independence. Financial freedom happens when you know what that number is, and then you start putting in a plan to take action today. So financial freedom to me is having that plan and taking inspired action right where you are. Because in the discipline of working that plan, like you running, right?
I was just thinking that, yeah.
Exactly. And so in the discipline is where you find freedom.
Wow, that's a really interesting quote. Can you say a little more on that? Because I think it's actually something I was talking about with one of my entrepreneur clients yesterday around this idea of how like restrictions can create freedom, like routine and clarity and plan can create freedom to then be creative, which feels very much the antithesis of how I often think about creativity.
For sure. So when you give yourself the gift of a plan or a container or boundaries, it's like the river, right? Like the river flows within the boundaries of the banks. But the river can be very, it's going to go around the rocks. It's going to have rapids. It's going to do all the things it does, but stay in the boundaries. And so it is counterintuitive because in discipline, you think, oh, these are all the things I can't do. But if you can rewire your mind to say, oh, this is what I get to do now, it will unlock that freedom.
Love that.
The next step.
Next mindset.
Ooh, so positive relationship mindset. So my book is called Money Loves You.
Yes.
Which is, a silly name. It's supposed to be fun and playful, but because people think so serious about money. And it's basically a powerful personification that we get to decide how our relationship with money is. So if it's filled with opportunity and money is a resource and it's light and it gives opportunity to your dreams, your goals, what you want, as opposed to if you have thoughts of money hates me, or I'm not good at money, or I'll never be good at money, or rich people are bad. It's like these are those subconscious beliefs. Like if you think back to your childhood, how did your caretakers or your parents deal with money in front of you? So were you told, we can't afford this? Or what did they say about people that were wealthy? And that is often like deeply rooted in our subconscious. And then it shows up in your thoughts, in your behaviors. And so we have to be aware of that. And it's like, so is your relationship with money positive? Like catch yourself in those thoughts to say, if it is negative, how do I rewire that? And what's the new thought or the new affirmation that you can hold?
Yeah, I love it. It's a lot of mindset work and identity shifting, right? Like our last mindset.
Abundance mindset.
Love that word. Love it.
So again, it's going back to the natural intention is, what if this does work out? What if I do make a lot of money? I love the quote. It's abundance scoops from abundance and abundance remains. I saw that in your book and I loved that too. Yeah. It's also in the community of who you work with and who you communicate with. Are you around abundance minded people? Are you around scarcity mindset? Because who you're around is that's going to actually pull you forward if it's in that abundant mindset. There's enough for everyone, no matter, I have so many friends in the financial services industry and we all help each other. We all want, because there's just abundance remains.
Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit into my own money stories here.
Okay.
And we'll kind of set this up as a little bit of like coaching back and forth, and I'll be asking you some questions to pull on some of your brilliant knowledge. So okay. I think I have a unique combination of some of the archetypes that I saw you list out in your book between like the savvy stewardess, someone who's feels really adept with money, feels really comfortable with it. I've always been great at saving, investing, both having a lot of my paycheck going towards an automatic high yield savings account. I've always felt sort of in the clear. And that comes from coming from a family where my uncle and my grandmother were entrepreneurs. They co-founded a business. Well, my grandfather co-founded the business, passed away, and my grandmother and uncle ran it together for many years. They grew up doing a lot of sit downs with me about finances.
Lucky.
Yes. I had a subconscious thing that happened today that I actually didn't even realize till I got here, where I don't wear this necklace very often anymore, but it's one my grandmother gave me, and it like clicked in when I was reading your book. I was like, oh, that's why I put that on. She gave this to me when I was 16, which was kind of an unusual gift for a 16-year-old, as a necklace with an opal. And she sat down and was like, I need this to be sort of like a core memory. You are the best investment that I will ever make, and investing in yourself is the best thing you can ever do.
I love that.
And she always nailed home with me, about like education and things. But the bifurcation of this is, so I had a lot of entrepreneurship on one side of my family, but there was no money in my nuclear family. Like there wasn't an abundance mindset there. I had, my dad's a sports journalist, my mom's a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
But my dad's side of the family came from a lot of generational wealth. And so in my dad's lineage, there was sort of an assumption that there just always would be money, but the money was always tied to a lot of family strings. And on my mom's side, there was money, but it was the entrepreneur journey of like up, down, up, down. Are we going to have money? So there's a lot of like scarcity mindset. Where I stand is this weird thing where I grew up around a lot of towns that were incredibly wealthy. I grew up around some of the wealthiest people in the country. But
East Coast?
East Coast, Connecticut. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
Right outside the city, in the like financial capital of the world, basically, Fairfield County, where all the hedge fund people are. So you're around all these people who are in legitimate mansions. And that's, as a kid, if that's the only thing you see, that's normalized. And then we're in what is a completely normal-sized house. That's nothing fancy. And this mindset that was a lot of like a little bit of keeping up with the Joneses, like, and that was kind of everyone in the area. That was sort of part of the culture, was like, oh, but did you see what, the Greenbergs have? And did you see what like the Joneses have? Whatever. And like, we looked up their house on Zillow and like everyone's stalking each other. So I think I have been trying this year to come to terms with my own relationship with money now as it relates to trying to step into entrepreneurship. and shifting out of being in corporate worlds where I was constantly negotiating higher and higher salaries, but realizing that there was ultimately a cap of around, in my industry, like 200K for a salary.
Okay.
I mean, there's some outliers to that, but generally that's where you would cap out. And feeling called to step into like my own journey, my own business and more, but then coming up against all these interesting worth things and money things. So that's where I'll start.
Yeah. Yeah. I know for me, when I left a job into entrepreneurship, I basically found my worth in the achievement, in the doing. Looking back now, I would have been like, oh, I had that all wrong. But at the same time, it got me to here. If I were to go back, I don't like to live with regrets, but it would be like, your worth isn't tied to success or doing or achievement. We are innately worthy. And so I feel like with your background, you have all these like, I saw bubbles around your head, and I'm like, oh, you can pull from this resource and this resource. And it's like you're heavily resourced with your journey and how you were raised and the experiences you had. And like, what a beautiful memory with your grandmother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, you're going to be in this roller coaster entrepreneur. Like if you're going to go the route of the entrepreneur, it is going to be a roller coaster. It is going to be ups and downs. And that's part of it. And so it's more like when I went through that, I thought that I didn't know it was normal. Like I thought I was failing.
Right.
And so knowing it's normal, it's like, oh, okay, these are the ups and downs. And then for you, it's like, how do you make sure you can make it through the downs? Because what is it? It's like 95% of businesses don't make it 5 years. And it's because when they're down, they're not resourced. And then they say, it's like easier to go back to, hey, a $200,000 job's pretty lush.
Right. That's cushy. It's cushy.
It's cushy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've listened to countless stories of entrepreneurs doing all different kinds of things. And so many of them, you always hear about their story once they've hit success. And so you always get the retrospective, like this didn't work, that didn't work. But now there's this magical end goal where everything worked out. And now I've made 20 million or whatever. And I keep thinking about this conversation with the author of, I believe the book is called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It was like a New York Times bestseller. I read it as part of my book club a couple years ago. And somebody asked her, so funny, she got like insulted. And they like raised their hand as a Q&A and was basically like, she had written 9 books that were kind of flops. And this was her 10th. And the 10th,
wow.
New York Times bestseller, like selling out everywhere. And optioned for movies, all the things. And they were basically like, how do I skip the first 9 and get, what advice can you give going backwards? And she was like, you have to make the bad art to get to the good art. Like there is no way to skip that. That's the journey. Like you have to do all the failures to get to the success.
Yeah. And so the key is like, how do you find joy and playfulness and creativity along the way, as opposed to going from frustration to frustration, right?
Right.
Like, how do you celebrate all the pieces of it?
Right.
Part of my new book that I talk about is this: as an entrepreneur, we go through these spiral learnings. And so it's like who you become in the process of building a successful business, to me, is the gift. I could go and build successful business now because of who I've become. And to me, that's worth more than the money. You'd give up the money because like I am who I am because of this journey of going through all the challenges and trials and all of that.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. So I took on a lot of risk this year, and it's been an interesting shift from somebody who I basically had been saving since I graduated. So I had like 40K in savings, money from my grandmother when she had passed away. And I hadn't touched any of that for over a decade. And then this year I just had, it was, I think you in your book refer to it as the super conscious, which is it sort of feels like a similar word for intuition around like, you need to spend the money. And I was like, I'm going to die. And I took on, I like to be transparent with numbers. So I took on an apartment here that is a 2-story bungalow that's $3,600 a month.
Okay.
Obviously a pricey rent, but originally where we're filming right now, which is a studio called Lighthouse, didn't exist. I mean, this opened after I moved here. And so I got that with the intention of that being my podcast studio. And so I needed an extra space because I knew that this was what I had to do. So I saw that as an investment. I invested in all kinds of courses. We met through a coach that I was investing in who taught about how to show up on camera, visibility, and working through some of that stuff. And I, similar to what you just said, feel like I have grown so much in the last year that it was worth the tens of thousands that I've spent to be where I'm at. And now I'm navigating the like, okay, I have no interest in hitting zero and being the entrepreneur who's like having a panic attack about their finances.
Don't want to live in the car?
Nope. So I took on a freelance client in order to pay the monthly bills and break even. That gives me Mondays and Fridays open to keep working on my own thing and then figuring out how to navigate that. All of this to say, being an entrepreneur and in some ways having to just like let go, I think is a really interesting concept.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear a little bit more of your story on that.
Yeah, I think as an entrepreneur, you're building your business, and in the beginning, it's all on you. You are wearing every hat in the business. And so as you grow, I like to say what takes you to $1 million in revenue will actually be the exact things that hold you back from 1 to 10 million in revenue.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's why the path to $1 million in revenue, 2% of women business owners ever make it to $1 million in revenue. But when they do, I always stand before them and say, guess what? It gets easier from here. If we can figure out this mindset around letting go, because what gets you to $1 million is your grit, your passion, your 24/7 go hustle. Like, it's so wired to all of you, which actually feels really good because it's tied up in our worth. You get your significance from that. You get it's a drug, really. Yeah. It's like you're getting your hits from finding the success and making through the roller coaster, the ups and downs. And so, but the very thing that got you there will now hold you there. And so this concept of letting go is, okay, now I have to build a team of people around me that are probably smarter than me in marketing, in sales, in operations. And I have to actually hand over the reins fully for it to be successful to these people. And what I find is a lot of entrepreneurs, they delegate tasks. They'll have so many VAs doing all these tasks, but they're still managing it all. So what I say is, no, you have to delegate the whole outcome of a department to someone else. Like, they get marketing, they own the end results of marketing. You don't, right? You can strategize, you can work with them, but someone else has to own it, because that's the only way that you as the owner is going to be able to take your hat off. And that is really hard for someone that's been dependent on themselves.
Yeah.
And if their worth is tied up in that, it's extremely difficult. So I call it firing yourself.
I love that.
And trust me, if you don't fire yourself, I've seen where your body shuts down, stress, like overwhelm. Like, I've had clients that had seizures because so much was going on.
It's such a weird expansion point, because it's the vulnerability of relying on other people, and it means you're pouring out more money that you then have to trust is going to come back in order to keep refilling that well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But when you finally get it, I call it then the stages of entrepreneurship. I call it the hustle phase, the surrender phase. Yeah. And the gift of the surrender phase and going through it is harmony. And that is like such a beautiful stage, because, the business is profitable, you're making money, you're helping people. You're like, for me, I'm able to give into my community, give into causes that I'm passionate about. Like,
time back.
Yeah. And time freedom is like the first freedom you have to get before you get all the other freedoms. And again, because we tie our worth to doing in that hustle phase of business, it's actually the hardest freedom to say, oh, I have all the time in the world now. I can come to LA and hang out and do podcasts, right? It's like this, but when you're in that busyness, it actually feels good. It's like,
it totally does.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about this. So I've had a couple conversations with people, because a friend of mine is a coach who, and this is like an interesting navigation. So she teaches how to build a business. So how to kind of get to the first million.
Yeah.
Or even first 100,000 with a lifestyle first design. So she teaches this concept of sustainable business where you're prioritizing the lifestyle that you want from day one. And I've been having this interesting tension with it, where I did a lot of coaching with her and I totally was like, yes. And then once I actually started to get a little more into flow on things, I'm like, oh, but I guess that's my lifestyle choice, right? I'm like, but I want to work on Sunday. But that's because I'm enjoying it.
Exactly.
I'm having fun with it.
Yes. I mean, that is the entrepreneurial mindset, right? Like, for me, I'm financially independent. I don't have to work another day in my life. But I choose, like I'm writing another book, I'm building another business model that I'm helping entrepreneurs with. Sometimes I ask myself, why am I doing this?
Well, I was actually going to genuinely ask that. Like, I used to work for this group called Hampton, which has a podcast called Money Wise, where they interview people who are like at the top 0.1% of wealth in the world.
Yeah.
And they talk about all these topics, one of which is this idea of like, is there a number at which point you would feel like you never have to work again? And once you hit that number, what's your why at that point? Like, what is driving you at this point to still create, do, or even I would go past that from the multi-hyphenate perspective, stay in the same field versus be like, I'm gonna fuck off and paint. I'm gonna take painting classes.
Yeah. And trust me, this is what I've spent the last couple of years marinating in is how much is enough. Because I passed the number a long time ago.
Okay.
And so
How did that feel?
How did that feel? I blew past it and didn't even celebrate. Correct. And that's another problem of entrepreneurs. we don't take time to really celebrate. And so I have now like slowed down enough to celebrate. So it feels really good. But I wasn't able to see it at the time. For me, my why is like who I've become now can I can solve a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Like I can help entrepreneurs in a different way than I could 10 years ago. I believe when women make money, we will change the world. And when you look at stats, like women are the major benefactors of money movements from one generation to the next to 2030. I mean, it's trillions of dollars that are going to go into women's hands. And money just amplifies who you are. So as givers, I just think that we can change the world when we have money. And so right now, my mission is I have a 1 billion for good pledge. I want to help 1,000 entrepreneurs grow and scale their businesses to 8 figures, so 10 million or more in revenue. And in the process of that, not when they get there, but in the process, foster this giving generously mindset. And so if they each commit to giving $1 million over their business cycle, I don't care how they do it. I don't care who they give it to, but if they each give $1 million into the economy, that's $1 billion for good.
That's wild. That's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, that's another, I guess, question as we're talking about this lifestyle first design concept, like with that, let's say, generosity woven into that. So I definitely come from the MO, and maybe this is about timing within your entrepreneur journey, but right now generosity feels hard for me because I'm still in a little bit of scarcity. I don't have like the income that I'm having right now. My monthly stipend is going straight into paying my rent, paying my bills, breaking even, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have excess, but I still have more. I mean, I'm saying this, it's like a joke, like Venice broke. I'm like in an expensive apartment, right? So it's like, of course I could downsize and things like that, but this feels like the right setup to grow from. And so thinking about at what point do you start weaving in generosity? Is it now? Like, is that something I should be thinking about now just to get into the mindset of like, is it tipping on my coffee? Is it $10 a month just to like,
it's all those things. And I would argue that you probably already have that spirit of generosity. And so for some, it could be giving of time. And so for me, when I was in that hustle phase where I may not have extra money, it was in communities. I've been on a hospital board. I've been
a big community leader.
Yeah, like I would go into the schools and teach the kids about human trafficking and social media. And I had 3 kids, so I wanted them to have this information. So I got equipped to learn how to teach that. That was a huge passion of mine when I didn't have the money to give. And but I could go in and teach and be in my community and help raise awareness. Now, though, I can give to an organization that I'm super passionate about that is saving women and children all over the world. They saved 8,000 lives from human trafficking. So now I can give money to that. And so you see the difference? So it is helping the person next door. It is even a podcast moment of helping like someone that needs to hear this. I think of it as it's showing up daily in the way of giving generously.
Love that. I think a lot of the audience that I speak to is earlier in their journey. It's a lot of people who have the aspiration of hitting the 7 figures and then going up from there.
Yeah.
But they're a little bit earlier on. So, I mean, people who are as early as just starting a side hustle that they want to turn into an entrepreneurship journey, artists, creative entrepreneurs, but are maybe on their way to even their first 6 figures.
Sure.
Do you have any advice for that archetype?
Yeah. much like your journey is most likely it will start out as a side hustle. And then while you still have your day job, if you will, you're going to build those reserves, because for you to make that jump, you had to have those reserves to be able to go all in on yourself. That is important. Putting money in the high yield savings, and you have that cushion to feel good. And what I have...
Can I pause you?
Yeah,
I just
sure.
want to explain what high yield savings
let's do
is
it.
for anyone who doesn't understand. Do you want to...
Go for it.
High yield savings, so it's a separate account. I use a bank called Ally. It's basically just a savings account. It just has a higher percentage back that you get versus my standard. I bank with Chase. My Chase savings, I don't even know what I get.
0.10.
Yeah, I was going to say 0.01%, with the idea that banks are supposed to be, for you holding your money with them, giving you a little bit of kickback. So the high yield accounts, they vary in percentages based on what's going on in the economy. But I think at one point, I don't remember what the highest mine got up to was, but at least...
4%?
Yeah, I think it was 4%. Yeah. And at one point, based on what I had in my savings, I mean, it was like $100+ a month. That was just essentially free money coming in. So I prefer to keep all my extra savings when I don't need it liquidated and in my Chase accounts in my high yield.
Yeah, for sure. And so how you get there is like start small. So if you feel like you can't save, like come up with $50, come up with $100. That's how you start the habit. And when you start putting in $100 a month, you'll see that accumulate. And then your brain goes to like, how do I save more? And you hopefully will get addicted to saving and investing. The thought would be, with $25 makes a difference. $50 makes a difference. Like over time, you will build that up. And the more passionate you are of getting out of your day job and starting your business, the more money you're going to find to put into that. You kind of gamify it. I mean, that's what I've found is helps for people. Get creative and cook for a month and like make yourself not go out to dinner so you can save this money. I have found the more passion and more desire you have to do your side hustle, make it the main hustle, that you will figure out ways to save money.
And what are your thoughts on, looping back to like my earliest note here about my grandma, this idea of investing in yourself, which might sometimes be taking on a major financial risk of saying, I'm going to spend a chunk on coaching on an education program.
I remember when I made my first $100,000 revenue year in my business, and I invested in a program that was $13,000. And I remember like not telling anyone that I did this, and I was freaked out. I was like, I'm just gonna, but it was like, again, probably the most important investment I've made, because I was betting on myself. And I had to show up. I had to go to the program. I had to do what they told me to do. I had to like figure my way through it. But in that program, I met mentors that took me to $1 million in revenue. And so it was like that investment that I showed up for, because you get what you put into it, that changed the course of my career. And so, you are your best investment, and that by extension is your business too.
Yeah, I was talking with another artist friend about this, where we were like, you're willing to invest in a stock that is some external company that you have no control over. Why wouldn't you invest in the mindset that's framing everything that you're experiencing every day for the rest of your life?
Totally. I was talking to a client about this. Like, okay, if you are going to invest in a stock and that stock returned 10%, but your business is growing at 25% or 50%, you're better off putting all your money back in the business.
Love that.
And to grow it.
Yeah.
For entrepreneurs, your business is the vehicle to your financial independence.
Yeah.
And so later in your business life cycle, that's when you can start taking money out of your business to build wealth in other areas.
Yeah. And I loved your point about the coaching too, because it's something I preach a lot, probably to a fault around. I worked in entrepreneur communities for years, and I learned to navigate them really well and take the best advantage of them. But I watched so many people who would spend $10K to be in one of these communities and just not touch it. And I'm like, whatever. And I am such a believer in, they say proximity is power as one thing, but just putting yourself in the room sometimes, that alone is a game changer. So one of the biggest investments I made, which at the time was the most I'd ever spent on anything, was to go to an event called Summit Series. I had worked for the company, but I'd never gone as a participant, to Summit at Sea, which they rented out like a giant cruise ship. Yeah. With like 2,000 entrepreneurs that are extremely high level on the cruise ship. It was $5,000. I was like, I would sooner die. Like, I was like, I literally feel like I'm dying. And I could do it, but I was like, I feel like I'm dying spending this money. And then I had a really wild dream. And like, I woke up from the dream that was about like boarding the boat and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm supposed to be on this boat for some reason.
Oh, I love that.
And I went, and it was, I mean, it's wild because in context, it was $5,000 for a 4-day trip. That trip changed my life. Like in every way, shape, and form, it completely transformed what I believed was possible for myself, for my world, for my future. And so
Yeah.
I think those moments sometimes, even when they're nonsensical to other people, are so important. And a little bit, I mean, it's the balance of where do you do the intuition led versus the rational thoughts.
And and I also think too, it's really important to, like the answers are within. Sometimes we actually hire coaches because we think they have the answer. So I think it's really important to say, check your intuition and trust yourself that you actually know what's best for you and your business. Mm-hmm. And so what I have found is as entrepreneurs have more money to invest, they may invest in things that is not in their best interest because they think someone else holds the key to the kingdom, right? Mm-hmm. So as opposed to if you're just staying focused on the one thing that you know will take you there, that's like the best thing you can do, because it's kind of like following 3 different diets, right? If I was trying to follow keto, paleo and something else, you can't do it. So I would be careful, like having multiple coaches can actually, as an entrepreneur, you think like, oh, I'm going to get all this help. I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to do all these programs.
This is very me.
I like to say this, you can have all the things. It's just, you just can't have them all at once. So like pick the program, pick the investment, go all in on that. And then in the next season, you can decide to do something else.
I'm so bad at that. I'm like, download. I wish did you ever watch The Good Place?
The Good Place. No.
Okay, a TV show. But there's a character in it. It's supposed to be like they're in heaven or whatever. There's a character in it who's like downloaded the infinity knowledge of the universe. And I'm like, I always wish I could just, with all these coaches with their interesting programs, like press a button and download it into my brain. Literally this, because I've sort of put myself in this self-led grad school program here. I'm like, there's so many different coaches I'm learning from right now, just through gifted programs, through meeting them and whatever. I'm like listening to 4 different programs on like 3x speed, trying to like download way too much knowledge. And I'm like, I'm not absorbing any of this. This isn't helping.
Yeah. I would say that's very normal because we're eager for the information. It's like we want it all, but it's really like, how much can you do all at once?
I was like dying laughing. I saw a Pinterest quote that was like, woman listens to guided meditation on 1.75x speed. I was like,
oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Is there anything I haven't asked you about yet that you really want to share or talk about?
I would say like we are our best investment. And I think we also need we need to be our biggest cheerleaders too. Yeah. So that self-belief, self-trust, self-love. There's a quote in my book that says, your self-worth must always be bigger than your net worth.
Love that.
Yes.
That's excellent.
We have to be really good no matter what stage we are at in our journey with who we are and what we're becoming. And because it is all about that journey. And so I think wishing for you to be at 7 figures or, wishing to be farther ahead, it's like, yeah, that's probably not going to help too much. Like you got to know where you're going. Like what's the vision that you have out there? How do you connect to that future self? Because oftentimes we don't follow the diet. We don't do the thing. We don't follow the plan because we haven't emotionally invested in that future self. So if we can make that emotional connection of who we want to be in the future and then make decisions today, like what would that future self decide today? Oh, they'd put my running shoes on because I don't want to right now, but I'm making that choice for her. And so just building that connection with your future self, I think is like, that's what I visualize and think
it's like
about.
embodying the traits that you want to get to.
Yeah.
Earlier.
Yes. Yeah. So it is financial independence if you don't have it yet. It is like a healthy body and feeling good, because if your body burns out, if you're not able to go for your walk or your run or do the things that are important to you because, oh, I got to go do this for my business, that will break you down over time.
Wow. Wild. Okay. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
All right. Well, my favorite social is Instagram. So I love it. So it's the Julia Carlson.
Great.
So find me there. And I do all my DMs. So I'm happy to connect with anyone and help. Then my website is thejuliacarlson.com. My current book, Money Loves You, is on Amazon. And
It's excellent. I'm midway through it right now, and it's just been a joy. I was saying to you beforehand that I've read so many money books over the years, and a lot of the advice can feel really, hustle culture mindset, bro,
Black and white.
black and white. Yeah. And this feels a lot more psychology based of like, how are you thinking about this? What's your earliest money story? You have some really tactical advice in there about how to like dig in and start unearthing stuff. So highly recommend.
Thank you. Thank you. And then my next book is called Let's Get You Fired. And it's for entrepreneurs that need to learn that process of letting go.
Yeah, love that. Cool. Well, thank you for being here. Such a joy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love it.
Yay.
I'm cheering for you.
Thank you.